Hello, everyone, and welcome to another VMware Cloud Customer Success Office Hours. This is for our APJ friends, which should be a relatively good time for them. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon here on the west coast of the United States. Here again with you all, as always, is Matt Vandenbeld at vCloudMatt. Not a lot of formal content today, so definitely if you're out there in the Zoom, we have some participants or on Twitch. Feel free to ask kind of anything that you would like. If not, I'll just kind of be going over a few different things. I think this is our second APJ time zone office hours, if not our first. Either way, it'll be at this time every Thursday from here on going forward, barring anything unforeseen. Sometimes, when we have conferences, it gets a little bit busy, but we do try to make sure that we do put this on as well. We have been hiring quite a few people out in the APJ region in the customer success team. We have some in the chat as well. I won't necessarily call them out at the moment if they don't want. Clement, who is on my team, Clement Leong, is at a customer call this afternoon, so he couldn't make it, but I'll be looking for him to kind of participate a little bit as well in these going forward. And we're still looking to expand out in that region now that we have a couple data centers out there and some more coming here very quickly. I think as part of our next release, we're expanding into India. And so there's definitely some stuff on the horizon for those of you in APJ, which is good. We always have good success out there with our customers and like to keep that trend kind of going. So a few things I was just going to kind of to cover off again in lieu of any questions. Feel free at any time to pop any in, and we got quite a few questions around when we automatically scale our clusters. So this is something that we do automatically, obviously. So this is part of the cloud service as well. And currently the threshold for that is at 75% of your capacity. There may be changes for that in the long-term future, but that's where we're at today. So when you hit 75% capacity, we will automatically add another host for you, and that is to ensure the stability of our vSAN platform. Now, there are some settings here, and this is part of M6 release, and going forward, we're going to continue to expand on this. So if you log into your SDDC, you can see here the Elastic DRS is disabled, but there is this button here to have Elastic DRS enabled. And our environment, and I should always caveat this at the beginning, is that what you see here in our environment is a little bit different than sometimes the average customer sees. Sometimes we're a little bit ahead. We have access to some different regions, some other regions for testing, those kinds of things. So it's not 100% indicative of what you'll necessarily see, but this screen is. So this is what you will get when you edit your EDRS settings or Elastic DRS. And I believe DRS stands for Dynamic Resource Scheduler. It's been a while since I broke down that acronym. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that's what it stands for. So what we have currently is based upon storage for the most part. We are going to be adding some functionality around being able to set different thresholds for compute and memory. And we kind of lump it into three buckets now, which is one is scale up for storage only. So again, when we hit that 75% threshold, we'll always add that other host. Okay, that's something we'll get. You'll get an email notification that we've done that. You can go in and either remove some stuff and scale back down or leave it as it is. But again, that's part of the service that we offer. Now we have these optimized for best performance and optimized for lowest cost. So you can see here for the optimized for best performance, it says we'll add hosts more quickly and remove them more slowly. All right, so a good use case for this potentially could be Horizon on VMC now, right? So Horizon, our UC offering, DTM, I guess, offering as well, is now fully supported on VMC, and we have quite a few customers actually leveraging this now. So this is one of those ones where you want the customer to kind of scale down, but you want it to be able to rapidly provision when you get a whole bunch of customers that are, are users that are logging onto their desktops, right? And you don't necessarily want to scale down too quickly because then you'll have that big gap again of the performance. You want the performance there when your users are logging in. Now, optimize for lowest cost is the opposite of that, right? So they'll remove hosts more quickly and add hosts more slowly. So perhaps a use case for this is DR or something like that, or dev test workloads, something to kind of rapidly provision, do a little bit of testing, and then remove it all, right? So it'll optimize that, the automatic scaling of the cluster based upon these settings that you put in, and going forward, you can actually set what your maximum cluster size is, right? So that it doesn't expand. It's currently set to 8. That's a soft cap. Which can be lifted, but so you could always say that I never want to go below 5, and I'll go above 8, or you could even really narrow it down and go, all right, well, I want a maximum of 6 and a minimum of 4, so that way you kind of know where you're going to be. So we're definitely adding some control, and like I said, in the future we'll be adding some more functionality to this. This is kind of the first revision of this service that we're offering to people. But that's kind of a common question that we often get is, how can we control some of the scaling, or what is the scaling? The other one that we get quite a few times too is when people think about adding or different resources. Say you have a dev test, and then you have a prod, or you have a or you have a database cluster or something like that. So a lot of people think that you need to create a different SDDC for it. So this is the view in the portal of our SDDCs, and this is ones that, like I said, that our group has created. And here's Clement from our APJ team who has a cluster out. But you don't have to do that, right? So within an SDDC, you can actually add clusters as well, right? And I'm getting an error, and that's because we've reached our personal capacity limit in here. But you can add right now currently a total of 20 clusters within an SDDC. So we always have that one that you started with, and currently that will be an i3, right? So you can actually see here we have the different host selection types. So if for those that are curious about how they get the R5 hosts, this is where we get it right now. And again, I apologize for the errors coming up because we don't have access to that capacity right now. We're reserving that for the customers out there. We don't get a piece of that. So, but this is where you would go to add that second cluster of R5 hosts. And in the near future, we'll be adding R5 as an option when you create an SDDC. But currently, you'll need an i3 cluster first, and then you can have R5s. But again, now you can actually add as many clusters as you want underneath. And again, we always cap it at 4, just because of that's kind of the initial one, and then you can go ahead and add ones afterwards. But kind of key things to think about here, and some of the big advantages of doing it this way as opposed to multiple SDDCs, is this is all under the same vCenter. Okay, this is all under the same. If I just cancel here and you go back, it's all controlled with the same network and security. It's just part of the same. With NSXT, it's actually a discrete switch, but it's all part of the same networking topology. So all of the settings that you have in this SDDC will propagate to that other cluster, and all of the VMs can talk from one cluster to another. You can definitely segment that if you want with our distributed firewall, right? So you can control, this cluster can't talk to that cluster, those kinds of things. But by default, you could have this available. We have customers today that, again, they kind of stick to the overview of, I have a management cluster and I put all of my management resources in there, Active Directory, DNS, all of my management tools, and then I kind of have this other cluster that's my dev test, and another one that's my prod or whatever, and all of those clusters could talk together because, again, they share the same opaque switch on the back end, and that communication flows freely. Now, if you were to go back to this list of this SDDC, these are all independent SDDC stacks. So can you connect these all together? Yes, it could get complicated. So you have to put a VPN between them. You can't span layer 2 between these currently. That's coming with some of the cloud-to-cloud offering that HCX has just released. But it's not kind of a recommended way that we do it. But you can do it in this term as well. And why then you would say to Matt, So why would I go with a multiple SDDCs versus a multiple cluster? Good question. So some of the times and some of the use cases that I suggest this to people is around we when we update our services, when we update our stack. So we just updated to our M6 release for this one. We do that as at an SDDC is kind of the unit that we use to update it. So if you say have a dev test and a prod, you could split those into different SDDCs, and then you could schedule ours, and you'll actually see here that we have this maintenance tab now. So you could go in and say, all right, for this SDDC, say this is my dev test, I'm going to update it on Tuesday at 4 a.m., right? Okay, I guess Monday at 4 a.m. And then I could say, okay, and then I'll go into my other SDDC and I'll say, now that one I want to update it Friday. So that you can have all of the updates to the stack in, say, your dev test SDDC on early in the week and see if there's any kinds of things that pop up for you. We haven't had anything as of yet, but some people are very risk adverse and want to ensure that kind of the solution is vetted on their test dev end prior to hitting their prod. So that's one scenario where I would kind of do the split of the SDDCs. Now, again, that comes with 2 different vCenters. It comes with 2 different management stacks. All of those kinds of things, right? So it increases your complexity and your management complexity, but in some instances, it kind of de-risks things a little bit if you think about that context where, if you go into just one, add clusters to a current SDDC, well, you have now the simplicity of everything being into one management stack, everything can talk. You only have one set of firewall rules to look after, one part of the management plane. So there's definite fors and againsts there, but it's something that people can weigh because, and I wanted to really bring this up because I find still not a lot of people really know that they can actually just add more clusters to their current SDDC. Right? They always think that they got to, once they hit the 16, which is our our soft cap and our recommended maximum cluster size, that they got to create another SDDC. No, that's not true. You can create another 16 host cluster and another 16 host cluster and scale that way. So I think that's kind of an important thing to note. So I talked a little bit earlier last week around some of the changes we had made in our solution here for networking. Some of the stuff we had removed our default compute network, so we don't have it there anymore. It's a segment. We kind of keep changing some of those terms. This is an NSXT based SDDC, which is now our going forward standard. Has been for quite a while. We are now migrating all of the customers that were on V up to this T platform. So pretty soon this is going to be the stack as you look at it, and it's a very good product. There's a lot of features in it above the V side of the house right now. There's still some stuff we're working on. One of the things we're working on is our rule accelerator that's coming soon as well. We had it in V and we're trying to get it put into T, where when you go to add a service like in here you could add site recovery. To get the firewall rules, you can see that we manually specified these, and we have a lot of guidance around this, and we'll be creating a lot more videos and stuff on our YouTube page if you haven't checked it out, and content around stuff like, what rules do you need to put in for these services to work. But in our V environment, and we're getting it in our T, is basically a drop-down that says, all right, create rules for SRM as a service, or SR as a service, or DR as a service, as we call it, or HCX, those kinds of things. Put in some values and it'll create those rules for you. That's still coming, but right now we have a lot of guidance for how to do it. And again, that's one of the advantages of kind of running one SDDC over multiples, is you only have to do this stuff once, especially on the gateway. The distributed firewall, this is our DFW like in any NSX implementation today. We don't have currently any rules in there. We don't have a lot of stuff in here right now that we're using. So, but it's definitely something to look at, because that gives that east-west firewall. So like again, I said, if you have multiple clusters and you want to keep dev test away from prod, you could do that with a DFW, as opposed to having to split it into a completely different SDDC. So there's very myriad of options that for everybody to do to consume things in the manner that they really want to see fit, and what works best for you. Any questions so far? If anybody's out there or anything anybody wants to see, we could definitely go over some of that. I'm just trying to think. There was something I was going to mention, and it's completely blanking on me. Anyway, we can move along anyway. So you can see here, just yesterday, we went through and configured HCX in our environment, and so we have that up and running. So I guess if we wanted to, we could, migrate some VMs back and forth if we did want to. We have also added more granular permissions to the administration side of things. So now I don't know if it's made it into exactly the SDDC we're into right now, but there is now the option of creating different roles in here and giving more granular levels of administration to services, or to users. I apologize. Yeah, let's see what else. Oh, that's what I was going to pop open. So this is another thing that I don't think a lot of people are really quite aware of either, is with VMC, you get a free access to the log intelligence service. So we call this internally LINT, is the acronym we use for it. Not the biggest fan of that acronym, but that's what we call it anyways, LINT. So there is some limitations on the free version. There is a capacity limitation on the amount of storage that it saves and the amount of retention it has. But it is here and it's available. So there's things like, you can see here, a whole bunch of events have been logged. This is a direct feed from your vCenter. So everything that happens in your vCenter comes into Lint, right? So you can see stuff from our fleet management in here, and this is us going in and doing a whole bunch of stuff of, adding or removing hosts, some updates that have been done. And like I said, you can actually see, who logged in from where and what they did. I don't know if this is going to go back far enough, but we could actually do a little demo. I suppose we could, of actually creating a virtual machine and destroying it. And you'll see it pop into Lint. I wonder if I want to pick on anybody. It says empty. So I'm going to go with it's actually empty. And if it's not, well, that's not my fault, right? So we're going to go ahead and let's delete this from disk. Okay, and then we'll go back to our log intelligence here. Go back to our dashboard. And it's pretty close to near time. I wonder if I can look at the day. Oh, I'm in the wrong screen. Sorry. It's actually on the dashboard page. So you can actually see my little spike there. So if I look here, you can see, oh, there I am. We had the cloud admin had removed empty 4. All right. And this is out of the, like I said, this is free and out of the box right now. And like I said, not a lot of people know about it. And it's actually, this Lint product is actually fantastic. You can actually do stuff in it. Now, some of the stuff when you do subscribe to it. So I guess I should step back a step here is Lint is Log Insight, but a SaaS offering. Right? The exact same product, just billed by the month. So I'll hold that. And I got a question from AJ here. Will the org owners be able to set those role permissions in VMC console? Will it be done in vCenter? My customer wants to set permissions for adding hosts to only selected users. Is it possible to do this from the vCenter console in the future? So AJ, so that's yes. So that's a little bit separate, right? So the ones I was talking to about the granularity is within vCenter. Now, if we are to go back here, and I'll just duplicate this window, so I can come back to it. If we go to, we'll go to VMware Cloud on AWS. One thing we have done is kind of the opposite of what you're asking, but we are looking at expanding the roles as well. So this is our CSP. So this is the cloud portal, right? Which is different than vCenter. So when you go into here and you go into identity and access management, so I am the owner of this organization, so I see everything. And let me see, I could probably find my user here. Am I on the first page? I probably went by it. No, I'm not. Feel free to email anybody on this list that you see. Oh, it's alphabetical by first name. Okay. So if we go to edit roles, so one thing that we've done, sorry, I selected the wrong one, is we've done the opposite. So we actually have it so you can specify administrators that can't delete anything. So that is in there today. So again, this is the cloud services part of the users, org owners, that kind of thing. So that's good feedback that that's something that the customers are looking for. I know that we're looking at it, but I'll take that even back to our PMs as well about having a role that also only allows adding hosts for specific users. I guess you could probably just not. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a way around that now. Because only the administrator will be able to add hosts. So you don't need to be an administrator to get into the portal. You could just be an organization member. And that organization member does not have access to do any of those add hosts type of things. And I know that it'd probably be better to have a little bit more granularity between that. So that's definitely something that I'll take back to our team. Because like I said, I know we're looking at stuff like this, but it's, yeah. Absolutely, I understand. They don't want everybody to be able to add hosts and clusters and stuff and rack up the bill on them, especially if they're not aware that this is racking up the bill on them. But yeah, at the short term, what they could do is make them organization members, and then they can't do it, but they could still get into the portal. They could still get into vCenter, and you can give them different accesses in vCenter if they're vSphere administrators, for example, right? So a vSphere administrator could be an organization member, not be able to add or remove hosts or clusters, but can manage the vCenter. So that might be kind of a happy medium for now. And like I said, we are definitely adding more and more options into this. I don't believe org member can. I would like to test it, but then I can't get back in. I'll validate that for you, but I'm pretty sure that an organization member cannot do a lot. Actually, I'll take that back. I think an organization member can add some stuff. And actually, sorry, let me step back. So you can be an organization member, and you don't have administrator there. And that will mean that you cannot add a host. Can't remove a host either. You can't actually do anything except kind of get in. And same with the NSX Cloud admin. If I deselected that, I can't edit any of the network settings. Right? So this is where you would do it, is in this checkbox. You remove that administrator, they can get in through the portal, but they can then jump to like the vCenter and stuff, but they won't be able to do any of the administrator type actions of adding or removing hosts. So that's where you would do it, is to remove that administrator checkbox. Okay. If that makes sense, hopefully. I know I kind of got there in a roundabout way, but as long as you uncheck that box, they will not be an administrator. They'll just be a user. And then they can, like I said, you can make a cloud admin of vCenter, so they can do everything within vCenter, but that doesn't mean they can add hosts or anything, right? If you're in vCenter, there's no mechanism there to add hosts or clusters. That's all done through the portal. And every service that we have has different levels, right? So I could uncheck HCX administrator for the same thing. So thankfully I got there. Now, while I'm in this screen, another good one to highlight is to see if I go back to organization member, the support user is unchecked. And I covered this in the Americas call earlier this week, because this actually bit a client of ours last weekend. If you don't have that, you can't open a support ticket. Okay, so we kind of give people a little bit more granular access and support to deciding who can and cannot open support tickets. Some organizations are like, yes, let everybody do it. Some are like, no, I want specific people to be able or to look after that for us. So if you're doing organization members and you're going through a lot of this stuff, and you want that guy to be able, or girl to be able to open a support ticket, that needs to be checked. And when that's checked, this will show up in their MyVM portal. So when they call our GSS support and they say, here I am, this is my login, my name, this entitlement will show up and they'll say, all right, thank you, sir, or madam, and here's your support. If it's not there, they're going to have some problems. So I just want to make sure that this week, just because, like I said, we've ran into some issues around this, that's very well known. Now, if you're an organization owner, it's there by default. So if you're an owner, you don't have to worry about it. But when you're going and you're creating users, and you can kind of see some in here. Let's pick just somebody. Let's pick Glenn, one of our support engineers, which is kind of funny that our support engineer is not going to have this role. But see, as I pop it open, he's not going to be able to open a ticket on this. And like I said, it's kind of humorous to me because he's one of our support guys. And like I said, so we are looking at more granularity in there. Like I said, this was a specific ask from a customer, and it made sense to us that you could have people that, are administrators, maybe doing some networking stuff, maybe being able to add stuff, but we're not able to delete anything. So that's in there today. So you could be an administrator for everything, but can't delete. Now, also good to note, if you have both boxes checked, it's going to do additive. So this means that I can still delete everything. You have to kind of uncheck the other one, right? So keep that in mind when you're working with the portals. And it is good that you asked that AJ, because there is a difference between being a user in here and cloud admin. So you can be a vSphere administrator and have cloud admin and be able to do everything in here that you're used to be doing as a administrator of a virtual center. And again, we're cloud admin, so you're kind of a level down, but you could do your regular tasks and job activities, and you don't even actually really even need to know that the rest of this even exists. All right. You can VPN in and go straight to this address and manage all of your resources in vCenter and be perfectly fine. So these are definitely two different things, and it's kind of very important to know. And like I said, this cloud services portal is really there to give everybody access to the entire suite of products that we have available. So there's lots and lots of stuff in here, continuing to be more in here, all of those kinds of things. Right? So we're going to keep expanding our SaaS offerings. Like Cloud Assembly is out now, which is our VRA in the cloud. We have Network Insight, which is the same as Verni or VNRI on-prem. It does have integration into VMC now so that you can actually figure out traffic flows. If you get a big bill for egress traffic, you can kind of see who it was that did that to you. This helps in designing firewall rules. It helps in designing migrations, so you can use this in the cloud and it comes with a 30-day free trial, so you might want to leverage that when you're doing a migration. But it's valuable to have beyond that as well. And again, building a SaaS model, so it's by month. And now, to be honest, again, I'm not the best sales guy. I'm an architect, so I'm not exactly sure how we package and build Network Insight, but it is a SaaS offering, so you can terminate it at any time or turn it on at any time. And it can help identify those traffic flows, so you know what applications talk to what applications. So when you go to move stuff to the cloud, you're getting all of the pieces with it, as opposed to having one application you didn't know talk to something on-prem, having some increased latency because you weren't aware of it. So Network Insight is great for that. And like I said, log intelligence, definitely good. The paid part of it, and this is something we're debating internally a little bit on some of the costing. So, again, always keep up to date or always make the webinars or ask us questions or whatever have you, because things change at an extremely, extremely rapid pace in this part of the world. It's not the VMware of old where we had major releases every other VM world and minor ones, the other VM worlds. And this is, we release major releases every quarter. Minor releases happen all the time. So things are always getting added and added and added. So always stay tuned to it. And one of the biggest things that we see as a good use case for this is you can use log forwarding out of LINT. So Well, we dump all of our logs, and that's including HCX and site recovery and all of the vCenter logs to Lint. Say you have Splunk on in your on-premises, right? You could forward the logs from here to there. So you have a nice big repository there. Perhaps that's what your security team monitors. You could forward that to it. You could actually even forward this to vRealize Log Insight on-prem. So say you have a license on-prem for Log Insight. You can use Lint in the cloud to forward all those logs to your Log Insight in on-prem and get all of that information for the cloud, for your on-premises data center, for Colo, for whatever else have you. So there's some really good things about it. And again, I really wanted to highlight it because a lot of people really didn't know that this even existed and was free, like I said, in a limited fashion, but free to see all the stuff going on there and get stuff like if somebody was deleting VMs, then there's, you could specify different dashboards. You could pick all kinds of things in here. Another handy one in here is if you do NSXT, it's just a checkbox and you'll get the firewall log. So if we go back to, I'll have to go back to our VMware Cloud here. But you can see here, like I said, you just do this little checkbox there. And when you go into VMware Cloud on AWS, when you create firewall rules, and we'll go into this one because that's what we keep doing, and you go to the Network Security tab and you go to Gateway Firewall, you'll see over here logging. And now we have it disabled just because, again, this is just our play lab and we don't really have too much going on. But you go to Edit, go to Enabled, boom. All of the stuff that's related to this firewall rule will be logged into Log Insight. So again, really makes a lot of security guys happy, right? So you'll be able to, and also, for troubleshooting, it could be handy as well to see if, it's a firewall rule or something that's doing stuff to you. So absolutely, a really handy kind of thing. Just, like I said, check a box there and away you go. And so they're now on our main page. You can see 12 minutes ago I deleted a VM, and hopefully no one was actually using that. It categorically said empty, and I have multiple witnesses and a video to prove such. So that's really the Lightspeed version of kind of a lot of the things I wanted to go over today. Was there anything for anybody that's out there, either in Twitch or in Zoom, wanted to see or talk about? Or had any questions, feel free. I'm just going to take a sip of water here for a second because I've been talking kind of myself for 3 minutes, but I do appreciate AJ asking some questions. And I'm not seeing many come across. Like I said, we're going to be doing this every week at this time. So if you do have any kind of questions, you can definitely, come back next week. Thank you, AJ, for coming out yourself. So yeah, I think I'll kind of wind up now. Any suggestions or ideas for anything you want to see in the office hours or webinars? So we are doing a webinar next week. It's going to be a little bit early for those of you in the APJ region. We're still fighting a lot with our webinar schedules to try to make them as accessible to everybody, but there is obviously no good time for everybody in the world because, we do have EMEA and APJ and Americas. So, but next week we're going to be going over updates to HCX. Dustin Spinnery on my team is going to be with me, and we're going to go over the new service mesh stuff and a lot of the advancements because it's been a while since we did an HCX update. So that's going to be the webinar. So for you guys, unfortunately, that's probably going to be 8 o'clock in the morning our time, which is going to be like 2 o'clock in the morning for you, but we'll be putting it up on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, we are VMware Cloud Customer Success on YouTube. We'll put it up there afterwards. We'll put this up as well on there for anybody that may wants to review some stuff. But you're always able to tweet at me at vcloudmatt. You can see that on the Twitch stream. We do have an email address, cloudcs@vmware.com. Again, if you have any suggestions for webinars or if you have any questions you want to have covered in the next office hours, any of those kinds of things, or I heard about this new feature, can you demo it, fire it all our way. We really want to be as responsive as possible to everybody out there. and make this time as valuable to everybody. So with that, I'll thank everyone for their time. I'll see everybody next week, hopefully, and I hope everybody has a good day.